I live on about 5 acres just outside of town. Not a huge ranch, but enough land to run a proper herd of goats. 50 or so at any given time. They're my pride and joy. They keep the brush down, provide milk, and honestly, they're better company than most people. If you've ever been around goats, you know they're like 4-legged lawnmowers with attitude. Multiply that by a few dozen, and you've basically got a demolition crew on hooves. My land sits right up against one of those pristine HOA-run subdivisions. Cookie-cutter houses, emerald lawns, mailboxes all in a row. Their rules are so strict they'll fine you if your trash bin is visible for more than 5 minutes after pickup. Luckily, I don't live under their authority, but my fence runs along the back of 3 of their properties. For years, things were fine. My goats stayed on my land, they manicured my fields, and life was peaceful. Until a storm rolled through last year. It knocked down part of my back fence while I was at work. When I got home, I had 12 missed calls and 1 very angry voicemail. Your goats are in my yard eating my wife's roses. I ran out back and sure enough, 20 of my goats had marched right into suburbia, happily munching their way through manicured flower beds like it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. I wrangled them back, apologized, even offered to pay for the plants. Thought that was the end. Spoiler, it wasn't. A month later, I was served with papers. Not just from the neighbor, but the HOA itself. They were suing me for property damage, nuisance, and emotional distress. They claimed my goats were a danger, that they destroyed thousands in landscaping, and this one cracked me up, that their presence lowered property values. Mind you, my herd was loose for maybe 3 hours total. The destruction amounted to a handful of rose bushes and some ornamental grass. I tried to settle it quietly, offered to replace what was lost, maybe toss in some gift cards. Nope. They wanted thousands. So I lawyered up. My lawyer was baffled. He asked, "Do your goats get out often?" Nope. I'd already repaired the fence with reinforced posts and electric wiring. That storm was a freak accident. We went to court. The judge tossed out most of their nonsense, left me with a small negligence fine, and told the HOA to quit wasting everyone's time. They lost. But man, the way those board members glared at me when we walked out, I knew they thought they'd won some kind of moral battle. During all of this, my lawyer joked, "You know, people actually rent goats for land clearing. You could probably make a business out of it." First, I laughed. Then I thought, why not? I already had a large herd. They ate everything in sight and they loved it. So I did some digging. Turns out goatscaping is not only a thing, but a booming business. Cities hire goats to clear brush from fire-prone areas. Private estates hire them for poison ivy. Even corporations hire them for environmental PR. I printed signs, built a simple website, slapped Goat Farm Landscaping, nature's cleanest crew, on the side of my trailer. Within weeks, I was booked solid. I'd load up 20-30 goats at a time and drop them onto job sites. They'd strip acres of weeds in days. People loved it. Kids would come watch, neighbors took selfies, and the jobs paid better than I'd expected. Guess who came crawling back? Yep, the same HOA that dragged me through court. Their fancy retention pond area had gotten overrun with weeds and undergrowth. Contractors were quoting them insane prices. Someone on the board suggested goats. Without realizing it was my herd, they called for a quote. I walked into their meeting room in my boots and flannel, grinning ear to ear. "Small world, huh?" I said. The color drained from their faces, but they couldn't deny my price was half what landscapers wanted. After some painful silence, they signed the contract. So, the same herd they'd called a nuisance now spent 2 weeks clearing their land, while I got paid more than their court fine. Every check they cut me, I signed the receipt with a doodle of a goat's face. Business exploded after that. The local news did a segment on the goat farmer who turned his herd into a landscaping crew. Suddenly, I wasn't just some guy with goats. I was running a legit operation. I hired help, bought another trailer, expanded the herd. Now, the same goats that once terrorized suburbia are paying my mortgage, my feed bills, and then some. And every time I drive past that HOA, watching their perfect lawns, I grin. They tried to bury me with a lawsuit, and instead, they handed me the idea that made me successful. So yeah, they sued my goats. And now, my goats own them.